All right, welcome to the Daniel and the Den podcast. My name is Chris. This is Daniel.
This is Daniel, and
This is
this
the
is the Den.
Den.
So,
Special guest in the building. Well, not really in the building, but in the building via the internet.
That's
yeah,
right.
Tim Holliday.
via the space station, dude.
From the
Yeah.
space station, I might actually be in space right now. There's a
Dude,
chance.
The space station is out of this world.
True, it is right.
And Daniel and the Den is also out of this world.
Yeah,
So
it's
we are
true statement.
connected. We are on the same wavelength because at the end of the day,
Yep.
time and space is collapsed when you are operating in a different realm, which is where we try to operate, dude. Out of this
That's it.
world. Don't get caught in the rat race. Don't get stuck in the things that steal our energy and steal our mind. And at the end of the day, that's really what the Daniel and the Den podcast is all about, is helping to highlight those individuals and their lives and help us all as a society to be able to really focus on what we can control, the only thing which we can control, which is
Yeah.
what's right here, what's centered, and to be able to bring amazing individuals on the show like yourself
Appreciate
and
that.
be able to hear your authentic story, because authenticity is the highest level of vibration in the universe, and our society operates on the opposing wavelength, which is shame and guilt, and most people live in that world. And as we highlight authentic stories and authentic people striving to be as authentic as we can, nobody's perfect at it, but at the end of the day, we like to bring people on and just have an organic, raw conversation about who we are or who you are, and how you got to where you got to, and how the Almighty, call that Almighty whatever you would like, has been interlaced in your journey to
Love
get
that.
you where you're at. So
Well, it's my honor to be on here, guys. I honestly appreciate. Of course, we've connected and been friends for a while, and appreciate the work that you're doing. I don't know that I have much to add, but I'll give you all I got. I'll give you everything I've got, and that's the best we can do.
we will
Fantastic.
appreciate that. I love that you just said that, because at the end of the day, like, that's all that's ever asked of any of us,
Yeah.
right? Is to give it everything we got, to
Yeah.
be here, be in the moment, be present, and that we appreciate you being you and taking some time out of your busy day. We got to experience a little bit of your life. You were kind enough to have us in the space station to host an event,
Yeah.
networking event with you guys a couple of weeks ago, and
Yep.
appreciate you carving out another hour of your
Absolutely.
time today. So
Let's start with your early life, my guy. Let's start where it all began for you in Sholo. Tell us a little bit
Sholo.
tell us about life growing up in Sholo, Arizona, my friend, and the backstory.
Yeah, and I'll keep this as tight as I can. But small town in Arizona. Most people haven't heard of it. Named from a card flip of a game back in the day from my great 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 grandpa, connected there. But Sholo was an awesome place to grow up. My parents owned and ran the Dairy Queen there for 30 something years. So we were like, as a kid, I'm the oldest of five boys. We would on Saturday morning go down to the Dairy Queen before it opened, and we had to clean all the ice cream machines out. And at first, as a 10, 12-year-old, that felt like a chore. I learned to love it, because we had some really cool times, just us dudes, is my dad and my brothers hanging out. And of course, you're cleaning machines, but you also got a little bit of music playing in the background. And then, yeah, hey, let's turn on a fryer and let's literally have fries at 9 a.m. We're eating French fries. It doesn't get any better than that. Come on.
That sounds like my every day.
And I really did have a great, like, when I think about it, I had a great childhood. So blessed to have parents who really cared and put in the time and effort. They themselves now, as a grown man, some years later, I looking back, I've got five kids of my own. My oldest is 20 now. My youngest is 10. Like, I really have a greater perspective as to how they were navigating our situation, and in a way providing an opportunity for us to to build and grow in what I felt was a safe environment for me to kind of experiment and figure things out for myself with guidance, guardrails, which I think were very helpful. So I think that they did a good a job as any, and now I appreciate more what they probably were thinking and going through, especially with me as the oldest and their oldest kid, and we don't come with instructions, as you know, and I feel very, very lucky to have grown up where I did and how I did. And some of the challenges that have continued to mold who I am came a little bit later, not so much as a child, not so much as a teenager. Things were pretty smooth. And then the challenge came later.
Yeah. Well, tell us about, if you feel comfortable with that. I would love to learn a little more about that challenge, those challenging times that kind of defined you. I mean, I kind of feel the same way, actually, as you say that. That resonates with me, right? Like my real hardcore, like, wow moment came later on in life, 5 years ago for me. But if you don't mind expounding a little bit on that, of what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, like I grew up again in a good community with good people around me, probably similar challenges and temptations and weirdness that any kind of teenager growing up in a small town would come across, but kind of came out of high school pretty much unscathed from some real addictions or issues that could have put me on a different path. My senior year of high school, I met my wife, my now wife. She sat across from me in English class. She grew up in the same small town, but we just didn't know. We knew of each other, but didn't really get to know each other until that senior year. And by the halfway through that year, we are a thing, and so which was really awesome, a great experience for me to really get to know her as really just a best friend, truly. So we dated the last part of high school, that whole summer, and kind of into the next that next kind of what would be my first semester of college. We're together. I decide to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints after that first semester of college. So I went to ASU. She's at Eastern Arizona in Gila Valley. So we're a ways apart, a little bit of remote situation. And I chose to serve that mission. That's something that I kind of, as a teenager, decided, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. My faith was an important foundational part of my life and our family life. My dad did not serve a mission. My mom was a convert to our church, but it was something that was important to me. And my first kind of real challenge came actually when I made that decision. I did not know Kara. I did not know my wife. I wasn't connected to her at all. But by the time I got to the actual, I'm leaving for 2 years to go to South America, to go to Chile, we had to change our relationship, and that was tough. Harder than I thought it would be. It's like, oh man, I love this girl.
Yeah.
And I'm gone for 2 years. And this is back in the day when there's no emailing, there's no phone calls, there's, 4 calls in 2 years. And that really was the first kind of real challenge, was that separation. And not only for me, but for her. I later learned, for her, that was such a challenge. Bless her heart. She lost her mom about 13 years ago. So kind of halfway through our marriage. And she's like, Tim, in some ways, that separation as a 18-year-old was almost harder than losing my mom. She's like, it was devastating for a period of time. But again, I believe in a higher power. I believe in a God that helps us, gives us opportunities to learn, to grow, to mold, and that often comes through challenge and resistance. And that was one of the first lessons there.
Dude, so much of what you just said resonates like to my soul. My story, my wife, we actually kind of were on and off from age 15 to, from our sophomore year to our, but halfway through our senior year was when my current wife and I finally was like, we were like in lockstep, like, and I was, head over heels, like just madly in love with this girl, right? Who was just my rock, right? And she, same thing. We dated. I went a full year, and chose to serve mission as well. And always, I had this, which is interesting because I was very much not your standard, run of the mill Mormon boy. I'm a go with the flow type of guy.
Understate.
Yeah, but ultimately, and thank you, Casey. She was an angel. And my father pinpointed that from a very, very clearly that she really was an angel sent from on high to help give me some guidance and direction and get me on this mission. But I still remember, dude, talk about like ripping your heart out. Like the first 6 weeks of going into the MTC, I still remember driving to the airport and I remember the exact place on the 202 driving past Tempe Town Lake. And my dad made a comment to me as I'm like bawling after giving her like the last hug. And he's like, it's all good, man. Before you know it, you're going to be back home. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm never
it's 2 years, man. It feels like an eternity when you're 19.
It's eternity. And I remember the 6 weeks that I was in the MTC there in Provo, because I had just been there with her in Provo, going to school. She was at BYU, I was at UBSC, and had all these. I would stare up there at Squaw Peak and think about all the times that I was up there, hanging out with her and maybe hanging out with her as well. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And it's just heart-wrenching. So can totally relate to a lot of what you just said there. And I never really thought of that in the way that you just described it until you were describing it. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that definitely was a very pivotal point in my life of, to your point, like allowing just that concept of suffering, right? Like when you're going through a phase, and everybody goes through it in different ways of like grieving and suffering and feeling that heart-wrenching pain, but then choosing to turn to your higher power, whatever that higher power is for anybody, to be your source of grounding and support and a place where you can work through those feelings of pain and suffering and still come out on the other side on top.
That's it.
I mean,
that's it. And go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Dad, I'm going through my own stuff right now, and I'm hearing you dudes talk, and I'm just like looking at dudes who are 10 years ahead of me on this one, and I'm like, I'm just gonna learn and listen with this because I'm going through it. I'm literally going through it right now. Literally going through something like this right now. And it's like, we're looking at you guys, it's like hitting me as truth of like, just sit tight and hold on, because life is a long journey and you go through your cycles.
That's really well said, Chris. And I'm learning slowly but surely that a business partner of mine just yesterday said something to the effect of, the sooner we learn in our life to think long, to plan long term, to be thinking like there's just so much to learn, so much to accomplish, so much to do now and forever. The sooner we think long instead of just short term, quick gratification, quick, we end up making decisions today that actually put us on a better path quicker today. Like, so we get to better outcomes sooner by thinking longer, which is, I think, a really cool concept. And it's taken me decades to start to even think that way, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as teenagers, I think back to the teenager, I'm like, you can try to think more than 30 minutes in the future.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
You can't really process life past more than 30 minutes.
Dude, teenagers, I'm talking like 5 seconds.
It
is what is right in front of me right now.
100%. I have 3 of them in my whole house right now, and it's
man.
And to your point, it's like I've seen this with my own life with decisions I make, where it's like, if I make a decision with an impulse of how I'm feeling in this moment, or how I could potentially see it happening within like just a couple of months, it's like, man, you are not going to be the same person today, the same time next month. So you can't just be thinking like that. You can't make rash decisions. You have to think long game.
Well, and I love what you just talked about with emotions, because it's one of the things that we're working with our children with right now. And I've gone through this process. I mean, most of my life was a very, very, and I'm an emotional dude. I'm an emotional being. We are
Yeah,
all,
we all
we're
are. Yeah.
all emotional, right? We're
Yep.
all spiritual,
Yep.
harmonic, and energetic beings. But the key to it is understanding and knowing what your emotions are, seeing them for what they are, but not allowing those emotions to control your state of mind.
Mm.
And um, what we're all about with what we're doing and what we're building with Daniel in the Den, with the C2 way, which is this operating system that we've talked to you about, that we really operate all of our companies under, is or as the foundational cultural component, is recognizing the emotion, seeing it for what it is, and being capable of allowing those emotions to be released and to flow by understanding the power that we have within us to change our states of mind through simply changing the way we breathe. And what that does, it allows the lower energies of the body where we have fight, flight, fear, stress, anxiety, lack of self-confidence and lack of self-control, those reactionary behaviors that fire off back and forth, which ultimately create disconnect, right? And that's the problem with all relationships in our society. First and foremost in our households, right? Between our spouses,
That's
between our
right.
kids, it's disconnect. When there's chaotic energy that doesn't allow flow to happen because our emotions are in the midst of it, because we're keeping those wound up, that's what impedes a true flow, right? Impedes us from truly being able to communicate effectively. And so we're all about learning how to take those emotions, allowing them to flow, and what we call consciously connecting to the present moment, which is what allows us to be able to create instead of just constantly being in a reactionary stage because we're operating in our analytical thinking and our survival centers of the brain, but we actually are able to co-create in line with the
Yep.
divine creator that has created this beautiful world for all of us to live in.
That's it.
And it's such a incredible way to live when you're able to see the world through that lens and understand and recognize that, like, the present moment is all we got. And to your point, thinking with the end in sight and thinking like, hey, we got, it's a long journey where this is the, even
Y-
our average life of 85, 80 years, it's like, it's a
It's
speck
nothing.
of the
Yep.
timeline of billions of years of the
That's it.
evolution of this planet.
That's
And
it.
it's like, and the eternity, to come, right?
Well, and that, as we were talking, some weeks ago, Danny, about co-creation, I mean, that really resonated with me that we really are and can be, if we will align ourselves, we can be co-creators with the creator. And
Yes.
I started to, I didn't see it at the time. I still struggle to see it, but I'm starting to now see, looking back 20 something years when I was in, South America on this mission, or in my early years, that I was in a mode or given opportunity to co-create me, Tim Holliday. I was co-creating my person and my life with the creator. And so that the mission was a very galvanizing moment for me. It was very much a master class in that. It's this microcosm of your whole life is packed into 24 months of serving other people, finding and serving and loving families. And that was a powerful co-creation moment for me. And my transition was quite quite wild. So, I'm serving this mission in Chile. Kara and I kind of modified our relationship to a very much kind of going from best friends to really loving each other and even romantically, inclined until I physically left. And then we kind of swung back to best friends. I really wanted her to have a full college single girl experience. Like, don't lock
Yeah.
yourself in a closet while I'm over here. Cause when you're on a mission, for those that don't know, I mean, you are 24/7. speaking with and meeting with people, serving, loving, helping. You're not dating. You're not working a full-time job for money.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
you pay to be on this mission. Like you're volunteering your time and
Yes.
service.
Yeah,
So
missions are not cheap.
yeah, and it's not, although
Missions are
I have a daughter on a mission right now, and I have learned, Chris, that it is it is cheaper to have them on a mission than not, because man, when they're home,
Yes, true.
Oh, that's true.
they
That is
eat
true.
and they need cars and they need gas and they need insurance. Anyway, it's funny. So I get to the end of my mission. Kara and I kept in touch through writing, literally physically writing actual letters with pen and paper, which is wild.
Yep,
It blows
I
my
got a
kids'
whole
mind.
box of those.
It blows my kids' mind, because now with Caitlin on the mission, I mean, we get to like FaceTime call her every week. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool. I love it. But I come home and Kara is still there. She dated a bunch of awesome guys, great guys. A couple which were like, hey, this is a good dude. Like, this is a good dude. But she'd come home from a date and be like, but I just you're just comparing, that guy to me. One thing that I did not know that this was a great strat. So for anybody in this situation, this is a good strategy. I went down to Rocky.
Tips, man.
Here's just the funniest, goofiest tip. I went down
Focusing on you.
to Rocky Point, Puerto Penasco, just south of Arizona.
Mexico.
Arizona, of course. Went down there, and they had this lady who could craft your name into a ring, just a simple $10, and you got this ring with your name on it. She's like,
There you go.
I'm like, awesome. So I wore it for like a year, and then when I left, I'm like, I'm gonna give Kara this ring. Now it was none of this like, this is a promise ring, whatever. It is my size, like a size, I don't know, whatever size I wear, way bigger than her, any finger she has on her. But she wore that ring. So and I'm like, how did you do it? She's like, I just taped the backside of it, just rounds of tape until it fit. She would wear it on these dates. So she would go on a date with a dude. They're sitting there eating dinner. She's eating. She's pulling a fork up to her mouth, and the guy's like, oh, hey, so who's Tim? I'm like, bro, I'm out here doing work, and no, it worked out great. So
that's awesome.
long story
No
short,
idea. You were literally killing the game.
no, I'm killing the game.
3,000 miles away.
Exactly right. It worked out great. So a little bit of a strat there. Put your name on her finger. But I ended up coming home from my mission December, and within a couple days of weirdness, no doubt. When when you're speaking a different language, a different country for a couple years, it's an adjustment back to the U.S. I get adjusted back in just a couple days, because right off the bat I'm like, yeah, let's go hang out with Kara. Let's see what's up. And just to see how she'd progressed, what experiences has she had? What's her connection? What has she been co-creating? During that time. And she had, to her credit, she is a baller in every respect, and she was building herself. She was building in every aspect, and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, she was building, which is awesome. So I come home, guys, and it only took me a couple days to realize, yeah, she's the one. She's the one. And we were engaged in 17 days, and we were married within 3 months of me landing back in the U.S. It was amazing. So we just boom, boom, boom.
There you go.
Just right into it, just like that, which is a great part of our journey.
That's awesome.
Hello, you were pretty quick too.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it would have been 3 months. I was like, I came home. We knew, like, it was interesting, because I came home, and my dad had kind of prepped me. Same situation. We same thing. When I was on the mission, like, she was doing her, I was doing me. She was head deep in nursing school and whatever, and progressing herself, and all of our letters back and forth were more best friend style. And but yeah, when we came home, she had already made the decision, because she had actually had a couple of pretty serious, she was in the middle of a pretty serious relationship when I actually got home, which it was unbeknownst to me. I didn't really know, because we didn't really talk about any of that. But
Wow.
She had already made that decision. Like, I'm going to really see what it's like when Danny gets home. And then at that point, I'll make the decision. And I still remember her telling me that 3 days after, like, hey, if you need to go on date and whatever, I'm fine with you doing that. And then I was just like, nah, I'm good. Like, we're good. So I got home in June, and we, dated for a couple months, and then I moved up to Utah, and got back into the swing of things in school. I wanted to get married like in September, like let's go, game on. But she,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, we're not doing that. We're waiting until December. So it was like 6 months of like
That's that's
waiting
amazing.
patiently for me.
That's
But
tough. That's tough, man. Props to you for
yeah,
that. But
no, but fortunately it worked out. And
yeah,
what a lesson in for me it was just lesson in trusting the process
yeah,
and
Yeah.
allowing things to happen however they happen, right? And I'm so grateful that we
yeah,
took that approach of just being like, let's see how it works.
yeah.
And I'm sure this resonates with your soul, but dang, what a blessing it is to have an incredible woman by your side that loves you and supports you and knows who you are, sees you for who you are, and and chooses to uplift themselves
Yeah, that's it.
while you were gone, right? Like that was a huge
Yep.
thing for me too, watching her do and progress. And I just think that's an incredible lesson in life for masculine and feminine energies that come together. Like relationships can only exist in a balanced state if both are lifting, both are progressing in their own
Exactly.
ways, right?
And I didn't know now. I didn't know then, guys, that what you said, Danny, is exactly right. I did not know then, as a 21-year-old, fresh off of this experience, that decision to marry Kara was the most important decision I have ever made. Even now,
Mm.
23 years later, I look back at the challenges that we faced together, the hardships and the ups and the downs and the zero bank accounts and having a child in our bathtub at home, all these crazy things. It's like I never would have known how important that would be. And that, by the way, like obviously I'm a very strong advocate of putting in the effort to get yourself in a position to be an incredible partner to a spouse who can co-create with you
Yep.
and with a higher power, like to truly make this incredible kind of union. I'm obviously a huge advocate of that, and everybody's journey is different. A good friend of mine, just talking to him yesterday, his dad married his mom at like in their late 30s. Like everybody has a different story. That's fine.
Mhm.
But I believe that, not only applying to a spouse, but now as I work with business partners in what we're trying to build over here at the space station, how important it is to align yourself with other humans
Yeah.
who, again, are building themselves, elevating themselves, and then together you can just do more. Like when we think that we can just solo roll this life and that we can just put it on our back and carry this life ourselves, I'm finally learning it just doesn't work that way, man. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
It's a lie. It's a lie from the adversary that you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
It is a lie from him that you've got all the talents, abilities, whatever, to just plow through life and just get through it. You need partners, and a good partner a good partner will make or break how those challenging whirlwinds and how you're going to get through it. Like
Spot on.
I've
Yep.
seen it with my own life, marriage,
Yep.
business partners, etc., where it's like, depending on the partner, you can have the exact same experience and have very different outcomes depending on who is the person that you are yoked with handling that challenge.
Spot on.
If this is somebody who has been, you don't ever get lazy and just say, well, I've done enough. No, always be perfecting yourself and make sure the other person, the other side's done the exact same thing. And then so that you can get through those whirlwinds together.
No question, dude. And it's ego, right? Ego comes to mind, right? Like what impedes that? And again, I'm looking at myself, countless, chart or start and stops of businesses over the last 15 years. And I look at, and it took me a long time to finally figure out and look at myself and remember like, hey, DP, there's one common denominator here, buddy. Like, who is that? Oh yeah, it's you.
Well
Right?
said.
It's called the ego. Quit thinking that,
So true.
you can get, again, because I had that mentality, like I can do this, I can grit and
Yep.
grind, I can figure this all out. And it's like,
Yep.
no, eventually you break. Nobody can do it all on their
Yep.
own. And you have to remove the ego, which, the acronym for ego in the C2 way is that we use is edging God out, right? Like when you are
Wow.
edging God out of your
Mm.
life by thinking that you can do it all yourself,
That's it.
dude, that's ego. That creates disconnect, right? That's what that's what removes the ability to be harmonious, right? That's transactional, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
transactional relationship that's finite and ultimately decaying and destructive. But when you recognize and realize, like, no, 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 I need to have God with me. In order to have God with me, I need to slow myself down. I need to
Hmm.
be present and in the moment, and I need to see and allow people around me who are helping me with the reflection to see what's really going on inside me, right? um, that's when magic can happen. That's when you can,
Yep.
again, co-create with
Yep.
the divine creator and attract like-minded individuals into your
Yeah.
life that can help you lift the loads that need to be lifted in order for, you know, you to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish here on the earth. And we all have our own individual purposes, right? And as the more you
Yeah. That's
go
it.
inward and allow the divine creator into your life, it's pretty special to see what happens on that front. And on that note,
That's
like,
it.
tell us a little bit more about what on the space station side of things, how
Yeah.
that's evolved
Yeah.
for you.
That you go from where you are, man, from Arizona days to you're up in Utah now doing space station. Like
Well, I
that's
mean,
the polar opposite of small town Sholo.
so I mean, really, like the next 20 years summarized in a couple sentences is, Kara and I, a couple of years into marriage, start building our family. We now have 5 beautiful kids, 2 girls, 3 boys, and all of the challenges and the exciting, the successes, and all of the learning that comes with having and trying to raise other humans on this planet and doing your best to kind of co-create with them. So we've had all of that. In Arizona, I interacted in a number of different companies, some of which I'm joining to try to kind of figure out my thing. I got a degree in engineering, never became an engineer. I went to ASU, never did anything in engineering except for a couple internships at like Honeywell. But I quickly found that I enjoyed software tech, and so I went in and sold some software. Then I had a buddy of mine who's like, "Hey, you should jump into real estate, man. Like you should be in real estate. This is 2007. I mean, to the moon, right? Everything's to the moon in 2007. So I do. I jump in, get my license. I start working with some great guys. You guys know the guys at Commercial Properties. We start doing some work
Yep.
together there. I'm working with some of the top brokers. Great. And then 2008, and just everything falls out, and it was wild. Yeah, just wild, financially, emotionally, just a crazy time. And so I had a number of moments where all of it wrapped into I'm trying to find what is my kind of from a career perspective. I feel like I trying to focus on elevating myself always, sometimes better than others, some eras of my life better than others, trying to elevate my relationship with my wife, trying to build and work with this family and with these kids. But from a career perspective, it's like, hey, working for a cool company. Ooh, there's another shiny object. Wow, that was cool. Dive. Oh, hey, what if you build something? What if you build a company and it goes to zero? What if you try to build another company? Goes to zero twice. There was a time, guys, when we went completely to zero. We're talking like all of our life savings, everything into a company. It goes to zero. I find myself in a 595 square foot shed converted into a mother-in-law quarters,
Mm,
um, with 6 of us, 4 kids. Kara had
mm.
just had our 4th child.
Oh.
I built shelves in a room that was 6 foot wide by 8 foot. I built shelves for children to sleep in. It was essentially just a 2 foot wide by 6 foot wide shelf, 3 high, triple bunk bed. Um, One you would look outside looking in like, what the heck? That's wild.
What year was this?
This was like 2000, I don't know, 12, 10, 12, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range.
Wow.
And what was amazing is it was one of the coolest, most exciting times of our life. Our kids loved it. They loved that little house. They loved that situation. We were in the backyard of a beautiful home. Some friends of ours, they let us stay in this little shed, and it was incredible. It was actually a great experience for us to go rebuild from zero.
Mm,
But transitioning to now where I'm at with Space Station, we finally ended up building and selling a small software company in our garage from Mesa, Arizona. It was a company called Crowd Mics, where you could use your phone as a microphone for a live event. You're 200 people in an audience. Hey, speaker gets done speaking. I've got 10 minutes for Q&A. Anybody have any questions? Instead of running a mic around the room or putting a mic in the aisle, you could literally like download our app, hit a button that says, I'd like to ask a question, and then talk into the phone, and your voice would come out of the sound system in the room. It's wild.
That's
It's
legit.
200 mics in the room.
That's
And
legit.
and it was and you could text questions, you could do polling. This is in 2013, 2014 we really kind of launched, sold it in 2016. And that was just I won't even get into that. We got another hour podcast on that whole learnings and crazy ups
We
and
will do
downs
that
and
someday. I would love that.
whatever, success and failure. But my brother was my co-founder. My brother Sean was my
Yeah.
co-founder. He's 8 years younger, and we went to battle, man. Like we went to war together. It felt like that. Now I say all this, guys, just to preface for anybody listening. I fully recognize that here I am sitting in a comfortable situation. I am born in the United States of America. I am privileged in so many ways, truly. Like I cannot compare my experience to others in different parts of the country or world. I feel like I've been so blessed to have the foundation that I have. So when I talk about my struggles, I'm not in no way, comparing to people who have lost everything way deeper than I, and children and whatever. My
Yeah.
wife lost her mom. That was tough. We've lost all of our grandparents. That's hard, but there's people that have experienced way more. So I never want to come off like, oh, look how hard of things I've had in my life. Like,
Yeah.
not trying to compare, just these are moments for me and what has built where I'm at. So I go to war with my brother on this startup, and it was just side by side in the trenches trying to build. Again, life savings, dump into this thing. Our wives, I mean, Sean's wife, she had just had twin boys and two other kids, 4 kids, twins. Just what are we doing? What are we doing? So bizarre. And it ended up being a really interesting experience. But what happened after we sold that is my brother was buddies with this guy, Sean McBride, on their mission in Honduras. Sean McBride calls himself Shonduras because he was Sean in Honduras. They're both Sean. And he becomes one of the top guys on Snapchat, moves to YouTube, builds out YouTube channels. Right about the time we sold Crowd Mics, he's like, hey, dude, Sean, this YouTube thing's working. I need a business guy. Like I need a partner, co-founder. Like, what if you came to Utah and let's work together? On a flying leap, guys. This is not like they were super deep homies for 10 years. She's like, I'm going to full send this thing, Tim. We're like, bro, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? He goes up and starts building what is now called the space station. It started off with the YouTube channels. Those 2 channels now, Sean and then his daughter Adley, who's 8, those channels now do well over 300 million views a month. Some of the top on YouTube. Very cool family-friendly content. And then inside of that, using that kind of financial power, when you have channels that are performing that well, they decided to start to build other things around them to kind of, build some diversity into how things are working. So it was, we have an influencer marketing agency where we work with some of the top creators and influencers. We have an esports org, so professional video game players. There's a whole world there. We have an animation studio. We have a conference that we own with Daryl Eves, who's the executive producer of The Chosen, and then with Mr. Beast, who almost everybody on the planet knows. And so we have like all these things going, and I'm in Arizona. After we sold the company, I'm consulting with a couple companies there in Arizona, and he's like, Tim, dude, this is working, man. Like, come up here and like, let's work on this together. I would love to have you. The space station's now 100 people, over 100, and I was like number 19, and he's like, come up here. So we make a flying leap. We won't get into that story of like moving our kids right as they're getting into high school and junior high. Traumatic. They were amazing. Our kids are strong. And now at the space station, I get to run a small investment group where we decided to invest in some of the brands that we're working on. Like, what if we invested actual cash and then become like these strategic investors? And fast forward through that craziness, we just passed 100 portfolio companies. We've worked with some of the most amazing companies, brands, and founders. We work with a group of hundreds of investors that join us in our angel investing. And it's just been such an incredible, challenging, exciting, concerning, galvanizing kind of co-creation experience for me and for my family. And we have loved both the success and the challenge that has come with this move.
I love something you just said. It just like triggered to me of the fact that like entrepreneurship is very much aligned with God, with the standpoint of it's an opportunity to actually co-create
Yeah, that's it.
something. You're tapping into inspiration. You're tapping into skills and experiences that he has given you. You're tapping into that, to those gifts, and you are building something that did not exist
That's it.
and taking it to the world. I love your
I
story.
love that story too. And so much of that story is, again, just resonates on so many levels. But, or I shouldn't say, but, and the beautiful part about co-creating with God, it's not linear. You
No,
know,
not
ebb
at
and
all.
flow and up and down,
Yes.
So wild.
and constant moving and constant messy at times and constant, there's chaos amidst like the order. And that's the key, right? Is allowing
So
things to be, allowing things to play out, and trusting and believing and still moving forward, right? Like forward momentum is key. It's not linear, it's moving. And as you're moving, you're adjusting, you're adapting, you're seeing how it goes. And
Yeah.
the beautiful thing is to see how, I mean, I love your story. I mean, it's so cool to see what has happened since, your
yeah.
brother Sean was just like, hey man, I'm gonna go, I'm full sending this.
Yep, that's it.
Dude, like especially guys like us, because we're older,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
these young bucks, like
Yeah.
that the world is digital, YouTube, this, that, and the
I
other. And
know
we're in that like
exactly.
that interesting time frame where technically I'm a Gen Zer, but I'm like on the top end. I was raised by a boomer, and I'm kind of like in this weird, I
Same.
was programmed archaically, but like I got
Yep.
all these connections with these kids that are just like living this digital world, and you're like, wait, what are you doing? You're
So
doing
wild.
what with YouTube?
Yep.
And but then to be able to
Fascinating.
like see and be a part of some of the really cool companies that you guys have been able to grow and scale,
Yeah.
and see how the Almighty has been in the midst of it, right? And bringing those things together,
Yeah.
and it's a powerful story.
It really
Well,
is powerful, dude. And I would just like to add one last thing is the fact of as I'm hearing you say your story and how you were in that like 600 square foot shed. Something that triggered in me as I look back on my own life, those times where I've had struggles. God is always there. He's always there, and you have to kind of let life at times when you feel very uncertain, you feel unsafe, you feel insecure, you feel like you don't know what's going to happen next. Take a moment, breathe, and realize that God is there. Let the story play out because you have no idea where that story is going to go to. Because you were in a moment right there where you could have just gone into full send. You could have full send panic and destruction mode.
oh,
But
100%.
instead, you kind of let life play itself out, and you kept the optimism. You kept moving forward, and it's like now look at where you are, man. You're literally like job creators, freaking building stuff. Like,
Well, and I honestly appreciate that, Chris. And I'm going to cut you off so you don't keep pushing too much into inflating what's really going on, which is I still feel like we are very much in this building phase always. And I think that what I'm learning,
yeah,
it's easier for me. I'm an emotional guy, just as you're talking about, Danny. Like I'm an emotional guy. I feel, and all of us are. We're emotional beings. Like I said, we're spiritual beings. We're uh, I feel like in the times that feel comfortable and good, the quote unquote good times, it's easy to look back with all this rose-colored glasses on, like, yeah, this is what God's done for me all this time. That's awesome. And but I have just learned, you're right. It's life is turbulent. It's a roller coaster. It's meant to be that way. That
Yeah.
is the
yep,
divine creation
Yeah.
of the challenge and the intensity. It's like the building of the earth required force and effort. Building our lives requires that, and it's jarring and
Yeah.
painful at times. And in the challenging times, it is obviously the hardest time to see that. And I'm trying to continue to learn that in the challenging times to take a different approach. In times past, it's panic, it's despair, it's anger, that come out, and I let these emotions just bubble and fly,
Yep.
versus breathing and realizing how incredibly grateful I should be that I have the
Yeah.
privilege of building. I have the privilege of a wife who is a absolute rock, and she has her
Mm.
ups and downs and her turbulent moments, and she has off days and on days, right? I have the capability of still breathing and being alive to be able to go, and that gratitude, like breathing in that gratitude into my life, has is takes such, for me, such effort, like such a concerted effort. I find that I have to like just truly like focus. It's just doesn't come natural to me, and maybe it does to others, probably not. And I think that's maybe one of the little secrets that I'm learning is in the challenging moments, in the tough times, whatever that is defined for you. And on the extreme end, there can be some really challenge, and sometimes it's literally just, dang, that meeting went really bad, or that was a tough interaction with my teenager, and a little bit of back and forth. And it's like, even in those little challenging times, just wait a second, man. I'm here. It's okay. I'm still connected. I can still be aligned. I'm still on this roller coaster. Someday I'm going to learn that, guys. I don't feel I've learned that today, but I'm starting to see how that can really
Good.
change my life.
Oh, I love what you just said. As you were talking, I was thinking about a book that I'm listening to right now, um, that I just started this morning on my morning bike ride, and it's the third book of this author, Michael Singer. First book that I read was Untethered Soul. Next one was Surrender Experience, and then the last, or Experiment, and then the last one that I'm reading right now is called Living Untethered. And the thing about living untethered, and that was so cool, is he talks about this evolution and creation process, and how the science is now seeing and knowing how these stars go through a life cycle and process, and they
Exactly.
explode, and that's all, like, we, in the end of the day, like, our creation is all happening from exploding stars. Literally, so as you're talking about the
Yeah.
force of
Yeah,
nature,
and the
and that is
violent
so,
movement.
that's
Yeah,
it. Yes. And as you choose, you said a couple things that are so profound with what we do in our interlaced into our daily practices, but breath, right? Like, and that's why I'm so passionate about the breath, is because I too have lived most of my life very hectic and chaotic on the outside front, like, oh yeah, all good. And then behind the scenes, letting it explode. And sometimes in the midst of moments, just letting my anger flare up. But as I've learned the power of the breath, and specifically understanding how the breath works and interlaces into your body, and when you're breathing through your mouth versus breathing through your nose, and using the muscles that we have that are designed to help us breathe and maintain a consciously connected state, an electromagnetic connection happens when you learn how to build the muscles in your body that help you maintain this state of presence. And as I've learned about these things and have embodied them, I've been like, I have this desire to share them with my kids, because I'm just like, dang,
yeah,
these are powerful concepts that these children and my wife and all my homies, like, can really help us through these turbulent moments of time, once you understand how you can truly not just like hypothetically do it and have to
yeah,
grit and grind through it, but no, when you physiologically understand how the body is in similitude of the universal body of the creator, and that we can also be an electromagnetic energy field flowing through this physical body, then not that it becomes easier, it just becomes more fluid and natural, right? To be able to maintain that state of presence where, we say, in the Nike slogan is just do it. Well, the C2 way, we just be.
Mm.
And that's what we do. It allows you to just be present.
Well, and you've been teaching me that, Danny, like as we've been interacting, that our bodies and minds, our bodies truly are these instruments, these what
Mhm.
can be finely tuned, beautiful instruments to connect with the
Mhm.
divine, to connect
Yep.
with the environment
Mhm.
around us, to
Yep.
feel and sense everything around
Mhm.
us, and to the extent that we can take care of these instruments and fine tune them. And I'm just kind of starting my own personal journey of trying to make those transitions in the way that I eat, in the way that I think, the way that I breathe, the way that I sleep and move and interact. And there's just so much to it. We could do podcasts, and you guys do have courses and whole programs around aligning that, which I think is super powerful. And I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing there.
Absolutely. And in fact, we are excited. We are launching that. We've been on a journey to launch it. We were supposed to launch on July 4th. We've had some.
It's been literally loading for the last week. Literally, our tech guy started the upload on July 3rd, and it has been going through a full week plus process now.
Wait, you're telling me you guys are having turbulence and up and down?
Yeah, exactly.
It can't be.
We're forging ahead, and we're bringing a lot of light to the world. We can't wait to have that, and we're excited to come up and do duo experience with you guys. I had an interaction with one of the dudes in your office,
like Antoine or something.
Antoine.
Yeah.
I had a little experience with Antoine. He was kind of the last guy that came through the line, and we had this little moment together. And he's like, "Whoa!" He felt it, right? Everybody that I have the experiences with and kind of walk them through it. And that's the whole point. Like once you feel it and experience, you're like, "Whoa, okay, yeah, I do have the power within me to do this." So we're excited to help you guys in whatever way possible, individually understand and embody and feel it and feel these feelings, because what it does, it just brings you together in a way that's just so cohesive, and it's really hard to explain in words what it is. You got to just experience it. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, we love that. Yeah, love that, and love the work you guys are doing. It really is. I think it's God's work. It's human work, right? It's personal. It's impactful, and just appreciate what's going on.
Dude, thank you for.
And something real quick. We always end with letting the guest highlight something.
Yes.
A person, place, thing, idea that you haven't talked about yet, but we want to give this a moment for you to kind of highlight. This could be something that's personal to you or professional, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We've had people shout out mentors. We've had people shout out businesses. We've had people shout out, favorite places. It's up to you.
No, I mean, well, that's super broad, and that's I appreciate the broadness of it there, because it opens it up to anything. I mean, of course, there's a lot of ways to go with this. I think, for me, it's more of a concept and idea. There's a lot of great books, a lot of great podcasts, a lot of great content to consume. There's a lot of beautiful places in nature where I think that we can kind of detach from what is a high impact information flooded world, which I live in and actually love and thrive. I love technology. I love I'm getting deep into AI, getting deep into space. Like I'm really excited about all those kind of things and those tools that I think can help us build businesses, help us solve world changing issues like poverty and literacy and education, bringing so I'm excited. I'm very pro those tools, knowing that they'll also could bring and will bring destruction in their wake for those who choose to use them nefariously. That's always been the case with every bit of technology. But I think in addition to all of those types of things that I could talk about, endlessly, the one thing that I'm working on myself right now, one of the mentalities I'm working on myself, or just realizations, is that everything that Tim Holliday experiences in this life, and every little moment, whether it's business, whether it's family, everything is going through my filter. I'm experiencing it. It's going through me, through my filter and my brain and my spirit and my heart and my mentality. And that I get to choose every bit of how I respond to everything coming in. I get to choose. Like, it just feels so empowering to me to know that I get to take in all these inputs that are coming at me, but all of them are just their circumstances. They're just, they are what they are. And I get to focus on how I want to interact with that. If I can somehow learn to master that, that's been my focus. That's my shout out, that we get to control how to act and how to respond to everything.
Dude, powerful. So powerful. I
It's
love it.
agency. You're literally highlighting
That is
agency.
agency,
Yeah,
and
that's
that is the key of agency. Is how do we can either react without thought, or we
Yeah.
can choose to respond intentionally.
Yeah.
And wow, that's a great
Good
way to
stuff.
sum up this show. Tim, I love you, brother.
Guys,
Thank you.
love you guys.
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate your whole story and who you are, and can't wait to
Thank
meet
you.
your wife and your kids, man. There's a
Hey,
lot of similarities there. I need to bring the whole family up
I
and
know it sounds fun. It really does sound fun
come
for
hang
sure.
out. And yep,
Well,
again,
love you
appreciate
guys.
your
Love the work you're
time.
doing. Honestly,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
buddy.
Appreciate the time today.
Absolutely, man. Have a great rest of
All
your
right.
day.
Thanks,
Praise
guys.
love, brother.
See you, buddy.